All right, so we're diving deep today into Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck.
Coke?
And, you asked for this deep dive, so you probably already know this is not like your typical self-help book.
Right.
It kind of challenges that whole, good vibes only kind of mantra.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, get ready for some real talk.
Absolutely.
Because we're about to unpack why this book is, stirring things up in the self-improvement world.
Yeah, I think it's definitely shaking things up.
Okay.
Instead of chasing that elusive constant happiness,
Right.
Manson's kind of flipping the script.
Yeah.
He argues that this relentless pursuit of happiness
Okay.
can actually be the root of our unhappiness.
Okay, so that's a pretty bold statement.
It is.
It feels counterintuitive to everything we're always told, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So how does constantly chasing happiness backfire?
Think of it like this.
Okay.
The more you fixate on being happy,
Right.
the more you notice when you're not happy. It's like, trying to force yourself not to think about a pink elephant.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly pink elephants are all you can see.
Yeah.
This is what Manson calls the backwards law.
Okay.
The more you chase a feeling,
Right.
the more it kind of eludes you.
Okay.
And highlights its absence.
So it's this weird paradox where, the pursuit of happiness can actually make us more aware of our own unhappiness.
Right.
Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, for sure.
When you set this big goal and the pressure to achieve it just makes you feel more stressed and less satisfied.
Absolutely. Yeah, the pressure to feel a certain way
Right.
becomes a burden.
Yeah.
The backwards law is actually rooted in a psychological principle called ironic process theory,
Oh, wow.
which basically says the harder we try to suppress a thought or a feeling,
Mm-hmm.
the more it rebounds into our awareness.
Okay.
So by constantly chasing happiness,
Right.
we inadvertently amplify our awareness of its absence,
Okay.
leading to, more dissatisfaction.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So what's the alternative?
Yeah.
If we're not supposed to chase happiness, then what should we be focusing on?
So Manson argues that true satisfaction comes from identifying and prioritizing
Yeah.
a select few core values,
Okay.
the things that truly matter to you.
Right.
These values kind of act as a compass,
Mm-hmm.
guiding your decisions and your actions.
Okay.
Instead of spreading your energy thin, trying to care about everything,
Right.
you strategically choose where you invest your francs.
Okay, prioritizing makes sense, but let's be honest. You have a busy life. How can you, actually pinpoint those core values
Yeah.
amidst the daily chaos?
Right.
Manson doesn't really give a step-by-step guide, does he?
You're right. He's not holding your hand through this.
Right.
But maybe that's part of his point.
Right.
It's about, taking ownership of your values.
Right.
One of the ways that Manson suggests that you uncover them is to ask yourself, what pain am I willing to endure?
That's such an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's not about seeking out pain,
Right.
but understanding that anything truly worthwhile in life will involve some level of struggle or discomfort.
For sure.
So the things you're willing to struggle for,
Right.
those are clues to your core values.
Exactly.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
What are you willing to fight for?
Right.
What are you willing to put in the effort to achieve, even when it's hard?
Yeah.
Those are the areas where your true values lie.
Okay.
He even goes so far as to say, who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for.
That's a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah.
So how does this choosing your struggles idea tie into the whole not giving a feck concept?
So it's about recognizing that you can't care deeply about everything.
Okay.
You have limited energy and attention. So
Yeah.
you consciously choose
Right.
which struggles,
Okay.
which values are worth your fucks,
Mhm.
the things that don't align with those values,
Right.
the things that drain your energy without contributing to your well-being. Those are the things that you learn to let go of.
So it's not about becoming apathetic or indifferent to everything.
Right.
It's about being intentional with your energy
Yes.
and your attention.
Exactly.
And it's about accepting that you're going to experience some negative emotions, some struggles along the way.
Precisely. And that's where Manson's reframing of failure comes in.
Okay.
Instead of fearing it.
Right.
He encourages readers to view failure as a necessary part of growth.
It's like that time you spent months obsessing over getting that promotion.
Right.
But when you finally got it, it felt kind of empty.
Yeah.
Manson would argue that's because you weren't aligned with what truly mattered to you.
Exactly. And it ties into the idea that society often pushes us toward values
But-
that don't actually resonate with our authentic selves.
Yeah.
The relentless pursuit of a bigger house, a fancier car.
Right.
the perfect life.
The perfect Instagram life.
Exactly. These are often like external pressures,
Okay.
not true internal values.
Right.
And when we chase those things,
Yeah.
we often end up feeling empty even if we achieve them.
So how do we break free from those societal pressures and start choosing values that are truly our own?
It starts with self-awareness,
Okay.
with like recognizing those pressures and asking yourself, does this genuinely matter to me?
Okay.
Or am I chasing it because I think I should?
It's like taking a step back from the treadmill of life and asking yourself, where am I actually trying to go?
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's a journey that takes courage,
Okay.
honesty, and a willingness to challenge your own assumptions.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So,
It's about reclaiming your attention and your energy
right.
and focusing them on the things that truly fuel your soul.
It's almost like a rebellion against those like generic mass-produced values that are constantly being marketed to us.
Exactly. It's about crafting a life
Right.
that's tailored to your unique blueprint,
Yeah.
not some cookie-cutter mold.
This is making me think about all those times I felt pressured to care about things that
Yeah,
deep down I just didn't.
right.
Like attending certain social events or chasing trends. That just didn't spark my interest.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
It's easy to get swept up in the shoulds and the ought-tos of life.
Right.
But Manson's message is a powerful reminder to question those expectations
Right.
and make sure they align with our own internal compass.
It's like he's giving us permission to say,
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my precious energy
Right.
on things that don't genuinely matter to me.
Precisely, and that can be incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
It allows you to step off the hamster wheel of constantly seeking external validation and start living a life that's true to yourself.
But isn't there a danger in taking this not giving effect thing too far?
Yeah.
Like becoming so detached that you don't care about anything or anyone?
That's a great question, and it's important to clarify that Manson isn't advocating for apathy or nihilism.
Okay.
It's not about becoming indifferent to everything.
Right.
It's about choosing your battles wisely,
Okay.
about focusing your limited energy and attention on the things that are truly meaningful to you.
So it's not about becoming some emotionless robot,
Right.
but about being more discerning with your emotions.
Exactly.
Choosing where you invest your emotional energy.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
You have a limited amount of emotional currency to spend each day.
Okay.
You can't afford to waste it on things that don't truly matter.
So how do we get better at recognizing what deserves our emotional investment
Yeah.
and what we can let go of?
It goes back to those core values we were talking about.
Okay.
When you have a clear understanding of what truly matters to you,
Right.
it becomes easier to filter out the noise and the distractions.
You're able to say no to things that don't align with those values,
Yes,
even if those things are what society tells us we should care about.
exactly. And that's where the real power lies. It's about reclaiming your autonomy,
Mm.
your right to choose what matters to you.
Okay.
It's about defining success on your own terms,
Right.
not based on some external metric.
But let's be honest, identifying those core values can feel like a daunting task.
Yeah.
Where do you even begin?
Right.
Manson talks about asking yourself, what pain am I willing to endure?
Right.
How does that help?
That question is a brilliant way to cut through the fluff
Okay.
and get to the heart of what truly matters to you.
Okay.
Because, let's face it, anything worth achieving in life
Mm-hmm.
will involve some level of discomfort, some struggle.
It's about recognizing that the things we're most passionate about,
Right.
the things that truly light us up,
Exactly.
are often the things we're willing to fight for,
Yes.
even when it's hard.
Think about the things you're most proud of in your life.
Okay.
I bet they involve some blood, sweat, and tears along the way.
Yeah, probably.
It's those challenges, those struggles
Right.
that ultimately shape us and make the achievement all the more meaningful.
So it's not about avoiding discomfort or pain,
Right.
but about choosing your struggles wisely.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your efforts with your values.
Okay.
If you're constantly struggling for things that don't genuinely resonate with you, you're likely to feel drained and unfulfilled,
Yeah.
even if you achieve those things.
It's about making sure that your struggles are aligned with your passions,
Yes.
with your purpose.
And that's where that sense of deep satisfaction and fulfillment comes from.
Okay.
It's not about chasing some fleeting feeling of happiness,
Right.
but about living a life that feels meaningful and aligned with your true self.
And Manson argues that a big part of that is embracing failure as a necessary part of the journey.
Absolutely. He encourages readers to shift their perspective on failure,
Okay.
to view it not as a sign of inadequacy,
Right.
but rather as a stepping stone on the path to growth.
He even goes so far as to say that we shouldn't just tolerate failure.
Right.
We should actively seek it out.
Yes.
But how do we do that without feeling like we're setting ourselves up for disappointment?
It's not about deliberately sabotaging yourself.
Okay.
It's about adopting a mindset of experimentation and learning.
Okay.
It's about being willing to step outside your comfort zone,
Right.
to try new things even if you're not sure you'll succeed.
It's about viewing failure not as a setback, but as valuable feedback.
Exactly. It's about extracting the lessons from those experiences
Mhm.
and using them to refine your approach.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Every time you fail,
Right.
you're actually gathering valuable data
Mm-hmm.
that can help you course correct and get closer to your goals.
So it's about reframing failure as a form of learning, a necessary part of the growth process.
Precisely. And the more you embrace this mindset,
Right.
the less fear you'll have of taking risks
Okay.
and pursuing the things that truly matter to you.
Which brings us back to that core message of choosing your battles wisely.
Right.
It's not about being reckless or careless, but about being intentional with your efforts.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you can't win every battle.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
The key is to focus on the battles that truly matter, the
Yeah.
ones that align with your values
Right.
and contribute to your overall well-being.
And that's where Manson's message can be so empowering. It's about reclaiming your agency,
Yes.
your right to choose what you care about
Right.
and what you let go of.
It's about recognizing that you have a limited amount of time and energy
Mm-hmm.
and that you get to decide how you spend those precious resources.
It's about crafting a life that's tailored to your unique blueprint,
Yeah. Yeah.
a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
And that's a journey that's worth taking,
Right.
even if it means embracing some discomfort
Okay.
and challenging some conventional wisdom along the way.
Speaking of challenging conventional wisdom,
Yeah.
one of the things that makes Manson's book so thought-provoking
Mm-hmm.
is its willingness to tackle some uncomfortable truths.
Absolutely. He doesn't shy away from topics
Yeah.
that many self-help books tend to gloss over.
Right.
For example, he talks about the importance of accepting responsibility for our own happiness.
That's a big one.
It is.
It's so easy to fall into the trap of blaming external circumstances
Right.
for our unhappiness.
It is, but Manson argues that true happiness comes from recognizing
Okay.
that we have the power to choose how we respond to life's challenges.
It's about taking ownership of our emotions, our
Mhm.
thoughts,
Mm.
and our actions,
Yes.
and not falling into the victim mentality.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that while we can't always control what happens to us,
Okay.
we can control how we choose to interpret and react to those events.
And that's where that sense of personal empowerment comes in.
It does.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that you are not a passive recipient of circumstances,
Okay.
but an active participant in shaping your own reality.
And that's a really empowering message.
It is.
But it also requires a lot of self-awareness and honesty.
It does. It requires us to take a long, hard look at ourselves and our patterns of behavior.
It's about identifying those areas where we tend to blame others
Mhm.
or external circumstances for our own unhappiness.
And then making a conscious effort to shift that perspective.
It's about taking responsibility for our own emotions
Right.
and choosing to focus on what we can control.
Exactly. And that can be a challenging,
Right.
but ultimately incredibly rewarding process.
Yeah, I know we've talked a lot about the philosophical side of Manson's book,
Right.
but I'm curious to get your take on the practical applications.
Okay.
What are some concrete things our listeners can do
Yeah.
to start implementing these ideas in their own lives?
That's a great question. And while Manson doesn't provide a step-by-step guide,
Right.
his book is full of valuable insights that can be translated into action.
For example, he talks about the importance of setting boundaries.
Yes.
How can our listeners start setting healthier boundaries in their own lives?
It starts with recognizing that your time and energy are valuable resources.
Okay.
You don't have to say yes to everything and everyone.
It's about learning to say no to requests, commitments,
Right.
or even relationships that drain your energy
Mm-hmm.
without adding value to your life.
Exactly. And it's not always easy, especially for people who are used to people-pleasing
Right.
or who feel obligated to say yes to every request.
Yeah.
But it's an essential skill to develop if you want to create a life
Right.
that's truly aligned with your own needs and priorities.
And remember, saying no to some things actually allows you to say yes to the things that truly matter.
Right.
It's about prioritizing your commitments, your relationships and your activities,
Yes.
and making sure that they align with your core values.
Exact.
So setting boundaries is one practical step. What else can our listeners do
Okay.
to start living a more subtle, art-inspired life?
Another key takeaway is the importance of embracing failure as a learning opportunity.
All right, we talked about that earlier, but how can our listeners actually put this into practice?
It starts with shifting your perspective on failure
Okay.
instead of viewing it as a sign of defeat. Try to see it as valuable feedback.
It's about recognizing that mistakes are inevitable. Setbacks are part of the journey,
Yes.
and that it's how we respond to those challenges that ultimately determines our success.
Exactly. It's about developing resilience,
Okay.
that ability to bounce back from adversity and keep moving forward.
And it's about learning from our mistakes, adjusting our approach, and trying again, even if it's scary or uncomfortable.
Because ultimately it's through those challenges, those failures,
Right.
that we learn the most valuable lessons
Okay.
and develop the strength and resilience to achieve our goals.
Manson also talks about the importance of choosing our values carefully.
Yes.
How can our listeners get clearer on what their true values are?
It's about taking some time for self-reflection.
Oh.
Ask yourself those tough questions.
Mhm.
What do I truly care about? What am I willing to fight for?
Right.
What brings me joy and fulfillment?
It's about identifying those principles that truly resonate with you,
Right.
the things that you're willing to fight for, even when it's difficult.
And it's about making sure that your actions, your choices,
Okay.
and your commitments align with those values.
Because when your life is aligned with your values,
Yes.
you're more likely to experience a sense of purpose,
Right.
fulfillment, and satisfaction.
And you're more likely to persevere through challenges,
Okay.
knowing that you're fighting for something that truly matters to you.
So to recap, some of the key practical takeaways from this book
Right.
include setting boundaries,
Right.
embracing failure as a learning opportunity, and choosing our values carefully.
And I would add to that the importance of taking responsibility for our own happiness,
Okay.
of recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to life's challenges,
Right.
and of creating a life that's aligned with our own unique values and priorities.
Those are some powerful and actionable takeaways.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I'm curious, were there any specific quotes or passages from the book that really stood out to you? The ones that really made you stop and think?
There were so many, but one that keeps coming to mind is this.
Okay.
The desire for more positive experience is itself a negative experience.
Wow.
And paradoxically, the acceptance of one's negative experience is itself a positive experience.
Whoa, that's a bit of a mind bender.
Yeah.
How do you interpret that?
I think it speaks to the idea that constantly striving for happiness can actually backfire.
Okay.
When we resist negative emotions,
Right,
they
yeah.
tend to grow stronger.
Okay.
But when we accept them as a natural part of the human experience,
Right.
they lose their power over us.
It's like that saying, what you resist persists.
Exactly. It's about letting go of the struggle to always feel good
Okay.
and embracing the full spectrum of human emotions,
Okay.
including the uncomfortable ones.
That's a powerful reminder, and I think it ties into Manson's overall message of choosing your battles wisely. It's okay to not be okay all the time.
Yeah.
It's okay to experience sadness, anger, frustration. It's part of being human.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most liberating messages of the book.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
giving us permission to be imperfect,
Right.
to embrace our flaws,
Yeah.
and to stop chasing some unrealistic ideal of constant happiness.
Another quote that really resonated with me was this.
Okay.
Who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for.
That's a powerful one.
It is.
It speaks to the idea that our character is forged not in times of ease and comfort, but in times of adversity and challenge.
It's about those moments when we're pushed to our limits.
Yes.
When we have to dig deep and find that inner strength to keep going.
And it's about recognizing that those struggles, those challenges, are often the things that shape us into the people we are today.
It's about choosing our battles wisely, fighting for the things that truly matter to us, and developing the resilience to persevere through the inevitable difficulties.
And that resilience, that grit,
Right.
is often what separates those who achieve their goals from those who give up when things get tough.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
But before we wrap up this deep dive into the subtle art of not giving a feck,
Okay.
I want to address the elephant in the room.
Oh, you mean the fact that not everyone is going to love this book?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bit edgy, a bit controversial.
Yeah.
And Manson's writing style can be pretty blunt and in your face.
That's true. His use of strong language and his somewhat cynical tone
Right.
can definitely rub some people the wrong way.
It's not your typical feel-good self-help book.
No.
He doesn't sugarcoat things or offer empty platitudes.
Right.
He challenges conventional wisdom and encourages readers to think critically about their own beliefs and values.
And that can be uncomfortable for some people.
Right.
It's easier to stay in our comfort zones, to
Yeah.
follow the well-trodden path,
Right.
even if it's not leading us where we truly want to go.
But for those who are willing to be challenged, to question their assumptions, and to embrace a different perspective,
Yeah.
this book can be a real game changer.
I agree it's not for everyone,
Right.
but for the right person,
Right.
it can be a powerful catalyst for personal growth and transformation.
And even if you don't agree with everything Manson says, his book can spark some valuable self-reflection
Yes.
and help you get clearer on what truly matters to you.
It's a reminder that we have the power to choose what we care about, to embrace our struggles,
Right.
and to define success on our own terms.
And that's a message worth considering, regardless of whether you're a fan of the book or not.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how this whole not giving effect philosophy ties into a larger conversation happening right now.
Yeah.
It seems like there's this growing awareness of the downsides of this constant pressure to be happy and positive all the time.
Oh, absolutely. It's like we're finally starting to wake up from this collective delusion that we need to be perfect and avoid anything negative at all costs.
And it's refreshing to see more people pushing back against that unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, I think Manson's book is tapping into this cultural shift.
Okay.
He's not afraid to say, hey, it's okay to not be okay all the time.
Right.
It's okay to struggle. It's okay to experience negative emotions.
It's like he's giving us permission to be human with all our complexities and imperfections.
Exactly. And it's a message that I think a lot of people are hungry for.
Right.
Especially in a world that's constantly bombarding us with these curated images of perfection on social media.
It's so easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to those unrealistic portrayals
Right.
and feeling like we're not measuring up.
It is, but Manson's message is a powerful antidote to that.
Okay.
He's reminding us that it's okay to be authentic, to embrace our flaws, and to define success on our own terms.
Now, one criticism I've heard about the book is that it's a bit light on practical advice. It's full of thought-provoking ideas, but it doesn't necessarily tell you how to apply those ideas to your own life.
That's a fair point. It's more of a philosophical exploration than a step-by-step guide.
Right. But maybe that's intentional.
Yeah.
Maybe it's part of Manson's message of taking ownership. He's giving you the framework, the guiding principles,
Right.
but it's up to you to figure out how to apply them to your own unique circumstances.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that approach.
Okay.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution to life's challenges.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
So it's about taking those principles and figuring out how they resonate with you.
Right.
How they fit into your own life.
Exactly. It's like he's giving you the ingredients,
Okay.
but you get to create your own recipe.
And that can be empowering, right?
It is.
It's not about blindly following someone else's formula,
Right.
but about crafting your own path.
Absolutely. It's about taking those principles of choosing your battles, setting boundaries, embracing failure,
Okay.
and figuring out how they work for you.
It's about experimenting, learning from your experiences, and constantly refining your approach.
And I think that's what makes this journey of personal growth so exciting.
Right.
It's not a destination. It's a continuous process of exploration and discovery.
Well said.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the subtle art of not giving a feck,
Okay.
I want to leave you with one final question to ponder.
Okay.
It's a question that Manson poses in his book, and it's one that I think can be incredibly powerful for anyone who's seeking a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
Ooh. I love a good thought-provoking question.
All right, get ready for this.
Okay.
If you could only give a think about 3 things in your life right now, what would they be?
Wow. That is a powerful question. It really forces you to strip away all the distractions
Right.
and get to the heart of what truly matters.
It's about identifying those core values, those guiding principles that will shape your choices and actions moving forward.
I encourage you to really sit with that question. Take some time to reflect on it. What are the 3 things that you truly give a feck about? Once you've identified them,
Right.
how can you start making choices today that reflect those priorities?
That's a great point. It's not just about identifying those values.
Right.
It's about living them, embodying them in your day-to-day life.
Exactly. And I think that's where the real magic happens.
Okay.
When you align your actions with your values,
Right.
you start to create a life that feels authentic, meaningful, and fulfilling.
Well said.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the subtle art of not giving a feck. We hope this exploration has given you some food for thought
Yeah,
and maybe even inspired you to make some changes in your own life.
absolutely.
And remember, this is just the beginning. The journey of personal growth is ongoing.
It is.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep choosing what matters most to you.
Yes.
Until next time, keep diving deep